as we grapple with the fact of why bad things happen to good people, and as we grapple with the fact that a 19-year-old woman, barely a woman, a 19-year-old child even, is lying in a hospital bed in Ukraine, having been raped by 3 men, being set alight and left to burn to death so they could get rid of the evidence of what they'd done. And as she, was burning to death, she said that nobody was there. And all she did was cry out, and then she decided to pray. And in her prayer, a person who walked by, and he happened to walk by because all of a sudden his car wouldn't start, so he got out of the car and he heard her scream. So he walked by and he rescued her, and then now at 19 years old, her feet have been amputated and her arm has been amputated and her kidneys are completely gone. So that means, she won't be able to go to the bathroom for the rest of her life. Naturally, she'll, be on dialysis, etc. And even though we're grappling with these issues of why human suffering is going on in the world, I think we can address these issues by first and foremost not concentrating or focusing too much on how or why is this happening in this world, but how we can address that in terms of how we can alleviate human suffering in our own life, in terms of building ourselves up spiritually, how we can alleviate human suffering in other people's lives in terms of helping a stranger we might not know, because all these little small acts of helping, if everybody does it, it creates a different world. It creates, truly a kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, because it is a spiritual kingdom. So I truly hope that you've been uplifted by that word, and that even if we are grappling with the fact that bad things do happen to good people, and you might be facing the worst moment of your life and you're asking yourself why, and there's no words to comfort you right now, I would just hope that you at least get deeper in the word, in terms of at least get deeper in acknowledging the fact that you are so much more than flesh, you are so much more than your ego, and you are so much more than your carnal desires or anything that man can devise against your life, your hope and your destiny. And in so doing, in so realizing, you start building yourself up spiritually, in terms of, if you don't focus on the physical, if you don't focus on the ego, if you don't focus on all these external things that we can see, then you focus on building yourself up spiritually. And in so doing, even if the tests come, because trials will come in life, because you have grown so much spiritually, nothing that comes against you will harm you, because at the end of the day, that isn't the system you sow into, that isn't the system you worship, and that isn't the system that you put your trust or your faith in. So I just really want to encourage you this morning that if we build ourselves up spiritually, if we build ourselves up so much spiritually to the extent that, systems, people and their devices cannot harm us because they don't affect us, then there is hope in us, and we have peace ultimately, which is our ultimate aim as human beings, I think, to have some sense of peace and hope in order to endure this journey and this thing called life. And ultimately I think that God has given us beauty for ashes, in terms of, if our circumstance is so hopeless that we think that our life is nothing but ashes, if our circumstance is so hopeless as Oksana Makar, the 19-year-old rape victim that was left to die, left to be burnt alive, and her legs have been amputated, and she might not be feeling there's any sense of hope, there's any sense of beauty in her life, because her legs are gone, her arm is gone, her kidneys are gone, and she's an extremely beautiful woman, and 52% of her body has been burnt, so she might not feel as if there's any beauty left in her life. And yet our God has given us beauty for ashes, because he promises us at Isaiah 61:3, to all who mourn in Israel, he will give a crown of beauty for ashes, a joyous blessing instead of mourning, a festive praise instead of despair. In their righteousness they will be like great oaks that the Lord has planted for his own glory. And I'm just going to repeat that. That's Isaiah 61 verse 3. To all who mourn in Israel, he will give a crown of beauty for ashes, a joyous blessing instead of mourning, festive praise instead of despair. In their righteousness they will be like great oaks that the Lord has planted for his own glory. So in all our despair, in all our ashes, if our life just seems nothing but ashes, in terms of it's worthless, there's no beauty in it. Isaiah 61:3 promises us that to all who mourn in the spiritual matrix of God's kingdom, he will give them a crown of beauty for ashes, so that everything, their destiny, their future, everything in them, if they give it to God, in terms of if they dedicate their life, the ashes that is their life, to God, if they say, I don't want any more of this, I don't want any more of the remnant that's remaining of my life, and they give it to God, God will ultimately give them beauty in terms of a renewed spirit, a renewed mind, a renewed soul, and they can finally be at peace, because the greatest tenements, I think, of the Christian faith is peace, hope and love, because with those three things we can accomplish everything. With peace, hope and love, we have eternal peace inside us, essentially. So I think if we focus on the fact that, if we just have faith and just give what is the ashes that may be our life to God, he will ultimately give us beauty, because as it says at Isaiah 61:3, to all who mourn in Israel, he will give a crown of beauty for ashes, a joyous blessing instead of mourning, festive praise instead of despair. In their righteousness, they will be like great oaks that the Lord has planted for his own glory. So as we reflect on Oksana Makar, the 19-year-old Ukrainian woman who is lying on a hospital bed with no legs because they've been amputated, no arm because that's also been amputated, and her kidneys have been burnt to a crisp because 3 men raped her and left her in a ditch to burn and die, and then someone happened to rescue her while she was praying. As we reflect on these things, let us also reflect on the fact that if we give the ashes that we think is our life to God, he will give us beauty in terms of a renewed spirit, a renewed mind, a renewed soul, because first and foremost we'll start acknowledging that we're so much more than flesh, so much more than ego, and so much more than our carnal desires, but a spiritual being, and that even though our life may be a mess, that mess, if we give it to God in hope and faith and love, he will instead give us beauty. So the mess will end up being our message in terms of what God has done, and in terms of what it is that God does in his kingdom, in terms of he ultimately turns around everything that is bad for good, even though therefore things might not be God sent, it will be God used. So as I close, I'm going to close on the first word I started, which was taken from 1 Corinthians 10:13, which states that no temptation has overtaken you but such as is common to man, and God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure it. Once again, I'm going to repeat that, because as we reflect on why do bad things happen to good people, I really want that to resonate in you, and for you to truly embrace these words that are written in 1 Corinthians 10:13, that no temptation has overtaken you, but such as is common to man, and God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure. And I think that's so deep, because no temptation or nothing, no temptation has overtaken you, but such as is common to man, meaning that nothing is new under the sun. Men have always raped, killed, pillaged, and done everything in this world, and nothing is new. But what we can do is realize that first and foremost our God is our source, so we have to pray, meditate, and focus on God ultimately, and to know that in all circumstances he will provide a way of escape. And we see that in the case of Oksana Makar, the 19-year-old Ukrainian rape victim that was left to die, and has been amputated, her feet have been amputated, her arm is amputated. We see that in her case because she said, after she was rescued by someone following her prayer, since nobody was there, she said that I thought I would not survive. I could not feel my body at first. I was screaming for help, but there was nobody there. I began to pray. I thought I had died. I remember it as if in a fog. And ultimately, that's why Paul tells us, the Apostle Paul tells us, that hope, now hope that is seen is not hope, for who hopes for what he sees? But if we hope for what we do not see. We wait for it with patience. So if our circumstance is particularly bleak, we don't see a way out of our financial distress, we don't see a way out of our business being saved, we don't see a way out of our family being reunited again if it's in complete pieces, we don't see a way out of human suffering in the world, we don't see a way out of the political unrest and state pillaging and all these things. We don't see a way out. There doesn't seem to be much humanity around us, and yet the Apostle Paul tells us that hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes for what he sees? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. So if you are going through a particularly dark moment, I just want to encourage you that if you in hope wait for a different circumstance with patience, with faith, with love in your everyday words, action and deeds, and even though you are suffering, you wait for an expected end called hope, even though you might not see that hope in front of you, that you know that God will ultimately deliver you, because ultimately, we don't have any hope in us if we see it, because hope is something that is not seen. For who hopes for what he sees? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. And therefore, whatever you're hoping for in your heart, whatever deliverance you're hoping for, be it in your finances, be it at work, be it in your marriage, be it in your family life, be it for a child, be it for marriage, and all these different things, whatever you're hoping for, I just want you to wait for it with patience, because hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes for what he sees? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. Therefore, I just want you to wait for your expected end, for your destiny, with patience. And I hope that in today's word, I truly have encouraged you to just, in your different ways, with your words and your acts and your deeds, build God's spiritual kingdom on earth as it is in heaven, in terms of your acts of faith, hope and love, because in so doing, if everybody does that, we create a new world of peace, hope and love. And even though, it sounds so American to be talking like this in terms of, let's just love each other and all this stuff. I mean, just imagine what this world would look like if everybody went out of their way to do something, even though they didn't gain something from it. So if all our acts were filled with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness and faithfulness in our words, in our acts and our deeds, and we all did that, believe you me, I think this world will look completely different. So I truly hope you've enjoyed that with me, Amanda Clinton, on the program Our Father's House, as we meditated on the fact of, why do bad things happen to good people. I truly hope that you've been uplifted by that word, and that you get an opportunity today to log on to Facebook, because I set up because Oksana Makar, the Ukrainian girl I've been talking about, there wasn't an English-speaking Facebook page to support her. So I set up this Facebook page called Oksana Makar support page, spelled Oksana, Makar, spelled Makar, and she's a 19-year-old Ukrainian woman. And she basically endured this horrific attack, sexual attack, in terms of she was raped by 3 men. And then they wanted to get rid of the evidence, so they left her in a ditch to die, and they burnt her alive. And basically she was just, nobody was there, so she was just praying, and somebody who couldn't start their car literally got out their car and went to rescue her. So right now she's lying in a hospital bed in Ukraine somewhere, and her legs have been amputated because of the fire, her arm has been amputated because of the fire, and her kidneys have been burnt to a crisp, so she won't be able to, go to the bathroom properly again because of what these men have done. So as we meditate on why do bad things happen to good people, and we meditate on the fact that no temptation has overtaken you, but such as is common to man, and God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure it. As we meditate on that word, I truly hope that you have been uplifted by that, and that you go on to Oksana Makar's support page in order to just show your support by just clicking like or just leaving a comment, because I just set up this Facebook page a couple of days ago, and people all over the world have been leaving their comments and just showing their support, because this attack happened in Ukraine. The English-speaking media isn't picking up on this story as much, and there was no support page in English. So just log on to Facebook, and the Facebook page is Oksana Makar support page, and you can also log on to my Facebook page, Our Father's House Ghana Ministries, because if you didn't catch her name or you misspelt it, you can just go to Our Father's House Ghana Ministries, where you can get this broadcast, and you can also see the link of where to go and support Oksana. I hope you have a fantastic day and that you truly have been blessed by this word.